approved the site
Mhm.
as a medical overlay district.
Okay.
So, I think that's some of the loops already gone for you, or the hoops rather, and you made a good suggestion. You're looking for something from us, I'd be happy to do it.
Mhm.
If you need it from the town, I would be happy to submit also letters of recommendation, if that's what the state requires of you.
Mhm.
But as far as I'm concerned, they would just need a permit from us.
Mhm.
I mean,
Our approval is it.
it's interesting, we've been,
My view.
every town seems to have a slight variation on the theme. Some towns we go into and they said, hey, Bob, we approved the overlay. We already debated this on town meeting floor, it's done. You come into other towns and they go, we just approved zoning.
Yeah.
We didn't approve welcoming you into the town.
Yeah.
That's a whole different issue. Let's have a public forum, let's get everybody in there,
Yeah.
let's debate it. So that's why I ask in a somewhat questioning format, because I don't know. I think what you said makes a lot of sense, that given the hyperactive society we live in these days, you'd think that if anyone had marijuana on any kind of public
Yeah.
decision-making thing, that would bring people out in droves and they would say pro and con against it, and that it'd be done. But
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the case.
Personally, I'm a big fan of public hearings.
Yeah.
I feel you can't have enough of them to get everybody on board with what you wanna do.
Yeah.
So, the more information, the better.
And the board of selectmen may want just that before they write a letter of
Yeah.
non-opposition.
Well, the Board of Selectmen made it quite clear last week that they want a public hearing.
Yep.
So in order for you to get a letter from them, I would say have a public hearing as soon as possible, whatever that takes. What does that take, Heidi?
Well, I'm not sure they wanna have a public hearing, because the Board of Selectmen, it depends, are they making,
I was at the meeting last week,
Alright,
along
did they
with
say a
these
public
gentlemen.
forum
They
or a
said-
public hearing?
they
Because
s-
if
A
they're gonna.
forum is different than a hearing.
They said hearing,
Okay,
is what they said, right?
So a
You were
public
there?
I thought that's what
hearing.
they said.
in my opinion, a public hearing is when you apply for something. You apply for a definitive subdivision, you apply for a special permit, you apply for a variance, you apply for something, you hold a public hearing. So, do they want, my understanding is, he doesn't want to apply for a special permit without his recommendation from the town, because it's a lot of funds that he'll have to dish out. If he ain't gonna get a recommendation, then why would he,
Right.
why would he
Expend the
move
funds,
forward?
yeah.
Why would he try to get a special permit? So that would be a public hearing. So I think that we need to clarify with the Board of Selectmen if they would like to have another public forum, maybe maybe a little bit more advertised to the town, and bring in a public forum, because a public hearing, all meetings, in my opinion, are public. A public hearing is when an applicant puts in an application for a special permit or a definitive subdivision, we're required by law to notify abutters, et cetera, et cetera. If he was going to give us his application for a special permit to have his dispensary over at Princess House, then at that time, we would have the abutters list, we'd have to notify all the abutters, we would hold a public hearing. I believe that the selectmen wanna do a public forum,
I agree.
a larger one, try to get the word out there, and, I actually did hear some bits and pieces of last week's meeting, that they wanted to have it at the middle school, and thinking that, there's gonna be people coming out in drones. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that will happen, but you don't know.
I think if the public forum, let's call it that for now, were to include a presentation that meant that was to have a dispensary at the Princess House, there'd be not a lot of public people there to object. There wouldn't be a lot of people there. If you had another area in mind that was residential, like Spring Street, then we might have to get Dayton Rehoboth High School to host the forum, because there'll be a lot of people there that will, so really the purpose of the forum is to gauge the town's
Appetite.
their sentiment for having what you're describing, or what propose in the future, so really,
I mean, either way, it's already a bylaw.
yeah.
We've had public hearings on this medical,
Overlay.
overlay district, we had a public hearing. I bet you nobody showed up.
I don't believe
Um,
so, no.
But we
good.
are the town of Dayton, we tend to be a little bit of reactive instead of proactive. You know, we don't react until it actually, or the townspeople don't react until we're actually faced with something. This board obviously was proactive when we did it 4 years ago and put it in the medical overlay, knowing that someday we would be faced with possibly a dispensary or a cultivating, so.
All right, let me take you through the presentation. I won't, touch on every word in it, I'll just kind of give you the high points, because I'm sure everybody is pretty well versed in what we're trying to do here. Let me just say that one thing I think that makes us unique from the standpoint, I'm not necessarily pitching my competitors or anything, but I think it's important for you to know about the Green Harbor is that we are, like, I think I said it on the, to the selectmen, we have a lot of gray hair and no hair. We have healthcare experience, legal experience, operations experience, retail operations experience, real estate experience. I'm actually a hospital administrator by, trade and education early in my career. I actually got into this business because I really felt that there was a need for some alternative ways of meeting some of the medical challenges that, you know, several of us and our families and people we know have had. My parents were both on IV morphine drips their last days on cancer, and they were in acute pain, and there really wasn't a good alternative. So my general sense was, there's gotta be better alternatives. I think the science has progressed quite significantly. It still has a ways to go, but I think, you know, I think we could definitely benefit from some, you know, cost-effective alternatives, which is what got me into the business. I contrast that with people that are just in this business because it's cool and where it's going. I'm not a user. I don't think any of my partners are users. We just believe in what we're doing. And we really think that, this can make a significant, you know, a significant difference to a lot of people's lives. The other thing I think that's unique about us is that we're not some big Colorado conglomerate. We have a model, let's plug it into Dayton, we're good to go. I mean, the clay is not dry. We wanna sit down with public safety, planning, whoever we need to basically shape a program that we can be proud of and that you can be proud of. If you're gonna put something up, you might as well put up best practice, I always say. So, maybe that's just my upbringing, but my father used to say, anything worth doing is worth doing well. And I believe that, and I think we don't have all the answers, we have a lot of them, but I think we can probably put together a really good program that becomes a benchmark for where you are. The other thing I think that's, I don't know if the planning board would be part of this, or the selectmen, but we also put in place a community hosting agreement. The community hosting agreement, quite honestly, is the way you get a pound of flesh out of us because we don't pay taxes, we're not for profit. We're fairly confident that we have a pretty compelling community hosting agreement proposal right out of the gate that your selectmen have in their possession. I don't know if anybody got copies down here. Basically, what we try to do is we try to tie it to some kind of logical metric. So if you're saying at the end of the day, you know, Bob, we really need to add 1.5 policemen to our ranks to oversee or supervise or do drive-bys of your dispensary and cultivation site, and that amounts to $100,000. Those are the kinds of metrics we like, as opposed to somebody just pulling a number out of the air. So we like to tie it back to things that make sense. And our goal is, and I think sometimes, Heidi, this can be part and parcel to the letter, is that frequently the towns like to negotiate the community hosting agreement before they issue the letter, so at least they know what the deal is. And they can also have those numbers find their way into the future budget, whatever that might be, so. So we are, the Green Harbor, we're trying to find, 3 dispensaries and 1 cultivation facility. The unique part about Dayton is that we're looking at both a dispensary and a cultivation site in this town. That's great for us, because if you think about it, I don't think anybody wants to be transporting marijuana and cash, since it's only a cash business right now, long distances. So if you can have it co-located or within a reasonable distance, that's preferable. That doesn't mean the law's not gonna change. I mean, there's legislation right now in Washington to kind of bring the banking community into this and declassify this to a more realistic, level. But right now, as an operator, I just wanna make sure, that we mitigate risk wherever possible in this equation. The dispensary that we're looking at, would probably be 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. It depends on the footprint. We actually have brought with us some very high-level preliminary diagrams of what a typical layout might look like for a dispensary and for a cultivation facility. Naturally, once we zero in on the property and we have interest in that property and we apply for the special permitting, you would see detailed architectural and engineering diagrams for this, for what these facilities actually look like. And I think we're looking at right now 35,000 to 40,000 square feet growth facility. Not very large, and interestingly enough, that 40,000 square feet is not all canopy of cannabis. There's growing rooms, there's drying rooms, there's picking rooms, there's potting rooms, there's a lot of that, but probably 10 to 15,000 square feet of that is actually canopy of grown. From a cultivation standpoint, and this is the other thing that I think also ties into the community hosting agreement, and I don't wanna excuse my stream of consciousness, is that the community hosting agreement also makes a commitment to recruit and hire local town residents wherever possible, assuming that they're certified, they pass the background check, they have the skills and capabilities. That's both with the dispensary and cultivation. I think we're saying roughly 6 to 12 people for a dispensary location, and anywhere from 12 to 25 for a cultivation facility. The reason why there's such a broad range is that there's technology being rolled out every day that enables us to automate a lot of the manual processes within a cultivation facility. Naturally, we wanna take advantage of that wherever we can, so that's why there's a range. The other thing I think, part and parcel to that, is we would endeavor to use local contractors, certified contractors that, do this kind of stuff every day. There's a lot of electrical, there's a lot of plumbing, there's a lot of HVAC in a grow facility. I'd say the dispensary is pretty much, kind of pharmacy-like, but the cultivation sites are very, engineering intensive from that standpoint. And naturally, we'd wanna work hand in hand with your own, permitting areas and building inspection areas, whatever, to ensure that we have a code compliant operation. Travel and activity, it's tough to say. Somebody at the selectmen meeting, I think it was you, Bob, maybe talking about, the amount of traffic between 8 and 10 in the morning at a Dunkin' Donuts is probably what we would see all day.
7 and 7:20.
Between 7 and 7:20?
Between 7 and 7:20 a.m. Dunkin' Donuts has more cars than this dispensary will see all its opening hours in any given day.
So I mean, I don't know if you've been to many or seen it, but it's kind of like, car pulls in, gets out, goes inside, and it's pretty quick. So I don't imagine that there's gonna be too much of an impact to infrastructure, but obviously it's something we need to take a look at. I mentioned the team. You can see our biographies. We have a, sample cultivation team, security. We also take security very, very seriously, from the standpoint of, I'm a grandfather, I'm a father, I'm an uncle, I have children, I have grandchildren now. I think it's kind of important that we really do a good job relative to security for both the dispensary and the cultivation site. as a result, we've hired, I think, the best security firm in the country in the Windmill Group to be our security partner. These guys are ex-FEMA, ex-Homeland Security, ex-FBI, ex-Boston Police, ex-Massachusetts State Police, ex-Boston Fire. They have impeccable credentials. They just also did work recently at the inauguration in Washington, the second or third inauguration they worked on. These are top-notch security professionals. They come in and do a detailed site assessment of each of our locations. They work very closely with the public service team, public safety team here in town. They then put a very detailed, plan together. So they do a risk assessment and recommendations, and then they do a security plan and concept of operations. And basically that, as I said, is a joint plan. It's your plan, it's our plan. That plan also includes training, both of Dayton public safety personnel, our dispensary and cultivation staff as to what the security procedures are in town. It's very thoughtful, it's very laid out, and I apologize I did not bring samples with me, but I actually have a sample risk assessment, I have a sample site plan, and I have a sample procurement manual.
No cupcakes either?
No cupcakes, yes. No samples, no free samples. And then we do the security system design and procurement, of which to give you an example, I just, was speaking to somebody today about a 40,000 square foot facility in Fitchburg that has 137 cameras. They couldn't open by DPH because they were a camera short in DPH's eyes, so they had to get that in. So this is pretty.
There's somebody looking at those cameras?
Yes, if they're not looking, they're capturing, and I'm
Yeah,
sure they're
sure,
looking
sure.
at some. But I think, I don't think the world is gonna blow up with, medical marijuana, but I think people are being maybe a little overly cautious. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
5 years from now, 6 years from now, maybe they can turn up, half of those 126 cameras off.
Yeah, watching plants grow
Yeah.
doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah. So anyway, why we like Dayton? I think we like the location of 24. We like the community. We like to be in places where people are accepting and inviting to us versus, fighting with us. So we like to have a community-friendly environment. I think there's a lot of traffic that goes by, Dayton. I think you have a population that can use us. And I think one of the things that I maybe turn the mic over to Bob in a minute, but unlike people that are population-centric, that's where I wanna drop my dispensary. We actually go to the Center for Disease Control. We actually look at an overlay for the east southern coast of Massachusetts. We look at the disease profiles, and then we overlay disease profiles that can be treated with medical marijuana. So we basically have, I think, a scientific approach to, solving this problem. And I think, whether we know not high incidence of cancer, high incidence, off the chart, incidence of type 2 diabetes, lots of PTSD. There are a lot of treatable illnesses, that people have in the area that, medical marijuana can help. So, that's kinda how
We actually received a letter from a family in Seekonk, Mass, which is 2 communities over. And I'll share it with you later on, hoping that we develop this in the town.
Yeah.
Because it's helping their daughter, and it's been a burden on them for where they have to travel for it. I'll share it with you at the end of the presentation.
Right now, Bob, how many dispensaries are open in the state?
There are 11 open.
Yeah, 11 open. There may be upwards of 75, 80, 90, but a lot of people who need this. And I think right now we have about 45,000, 50,000 card holders.
Closing in on 50,000.
Yeah, closing in on 50,000 card holders. These people have to travel long distances to get their meds.
Right.
So, And I think we all understand that the state took its time initially trying to work through this, and the process is now streamlined, but it just doesn't seem like they're opening up, fast enough. Hopefully we can fix that. I said, infrastructure's good, we like the locations, think there's a strong public safety presence here. The other thing that I think we would, I talked a little bit about in the community hosting agreement that I failed to mention is that we would also, donate to local not-for-profits, that are important to the town, or important to people in the town, that makes sense. And I don't want you to think that we are cash flush day one. We're like any other startup business. We gotta get the place open. We gotta run for a period of time before we're generating, we're at least cash break even, before we can start, writing checks. I would hope that the community hosting agreement that we would negotiate would give us at least a 6-month runway after we open before we start paying. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't be willing to pay something right up front once we were granted a license, so that you can see immediately that, gee, this is probably a good thing, doing business with Green Harbor. And then I think we'd also make some kind of, ongoing annual commitment to not-for-profits, and I think that, Mike, our CFO, I think would probably agree with me. If this dispensary is doing extraordinarily well, we may be able to do more, but we don't know that. So we don't wanna write checks we can't cash, so. Anyway, that's, community hosting, not-for-profits. I think I told you why I think, Green Harbor is special. I think, we are, I think, good listeners. I think we embrace strong collaboration. I think we're trying to put in place here a win-win. And I think, at the end of the day, whatever we create together, we'll know whether it's been a success, or a failure. And if we put the time into it and do the right thing, I think we'll, have a good model. So, from an immediate next step standpoint, I would hope that if there are any questions that we can't answer today, that we will give you thoughtful responses. I think we will reach out to the selectmen and understand whether it's a forum or whatever. And we will, hopefully answer any outstanding questions that people have, and if it is a forum, we'll come prepared to present our idea, our concept, our company, and hopefully answer any questions there. And then, move very aggressively towards, submitting our, siting profile for Dayton, both cultivation and dispensary. And then, once we get the pre-registration, moving very aggressively to file a special permit, get everything in order, start to build, open, get approved to grow, which is the cultivation term. We have to open that facility probably 4 or 5 months before we open the dispensary. So get approved to grow, and then followed by approved to sell, in the dispensary, and then we, push ahead.
Do you have any involvement or plan on the expansion into recreational marijuana?
As I tell everybody on the team, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I think the law is still being figured out at the State House. I know that there are a lot of, people that believe that once you become a medical dispensary, you have you're a right to be recreational. That's not the case. That's not the way the law is written. You have had to have filed before a certain date, be in good standing, be open, before you are even allowed to apply. And it's a whole separate permitting process, fee, et cetera. So I would say we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. That's kind of, where we're at. I think that the world is changing a little bit from the standpoint of, early on, when it was just medical, there were a lot of concerns about location. Since then, the world has changed a little bit. I think the Brockton, dispensary just started delivering. Once you start delivering, it kinda changed your business construct a little bit. Because you could, for example, say, gee, I'm gonna be in Northampton next week, put your order, assuming that you're registered with my dispensary, I could deliver it to Northampton. Not that I would wanna drive that far with product and cash in my truck. But the fact is that now that there's, you know, deliveries taking place, the model changes. It's less location dependent. And then there are people, as I said, who don't even have a shot at a recreational license. And there are also people that are in a situation like ours right now, where they've already been given a, letter of approval and have started building in their town. Then recreational gets approved, and the town comes back to the drawing table saying, wait a second, this could be a gateway to recreational. Stop what you're doing. So, it's wild out there, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Do you have a particular feeling or opinion? Does the board have an opinion about that?
Just curiosity, I mean, if you were to start a recreational grow facility, you might need more room.
That could be the case, and I think, you know, I don't know if we ever stop looking for real estate. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but in this building, there is some space adjacency?
Yeah, you have, over 30,000 available for your first phase, and then an additional, right on the same floor, another 30,000.
Yeah. And you would be amazed at how much they're growing in these smaller footprints. It's amazing. And with the lighting, the LED lighting that is out there, I mean, the jury was out for a while on LED lighting, but I think they've got the model right and the spectra right, and it's just amazing what these, you know, facilities are producing, and they tend to have 4, 5, even 6 harvests a year. So it's incredible. Anyway, I think that's really about it. The locations that we're looking at are the Princess House building for dispensary location, and Spring Street for a cultivation facility, and then we have the other building on Somerset.
1892 used to be a garage.
What?
1892
Right on the side of
County
Princess
Street.
House?
No.
No. Oh, Pavo,
You know right here, right?
Up here?
for cultivating
You
facility?
know, behind the Mitchell gas
Yeah.
station.
Yeah.
Pavo Construction.
I think that's a dispensary location?
Yeah.
At the
Is
Dispensary.
that in the
Dispensary
overlay
location?
district though?
That's not in the overlay.
No.
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 No, and that's not, I don't think that's zoned
Well, it's not
industrial.
zone medical, it wouldn't, right, it wouldn't,
It's
either way, it would have to probably be rezoned.
rezoned.
That should be.
That could take,
Yeah, I mean, what, you know,
Are you
we're-
in talks now with Princess House and with Peter Merrigan?
Yeah, we're fine with, Spring Street.
You fine with them?
For the cultivation center.
Yeah.
We're attempting to get, Princess House, to be able to see the space, and be able to talk to them. Dennis Feria there has sent information up to his corporate level, and, they haven't responded, so we're a little frustrated that that's taken a while. I understand Heidi may have.
I reached out to them as well today, I did, I reached out to corporate, I sent them an email. I figured tomorrow if I don't hear from them, maybe I'll make a phone call.
Yeah, if we can.
Peter has no more affiliation with them, does he? No.
I don't know, I haven't seen.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so, I think
Peter
it's
Torres
Yeah.
some
Who's that?
company. Peter Torres, a resident in town used to